everyone, Adam here. So my topic for today is going to be one that one of my friends sent in because I have been a little bit fried lately. I have not really had a lot of topics on my mind. I've been on vacation for the past couple weeks, so I've been kind of iffy about making videos. But I am all back now, and the intention is for me to get much more on track with making these videos. So, without further ado, today's question comes from my friend Alexa, and her question is, she says, I need to know what is the perfect squat form. I was talking to my friend who is a certified massage therapist. He told me it's more dangerous to squat with your knees not extending past your toes because it's more important to keep your back straight because it's damaged easily, and squatting with a barbell can strain the back. So that's none of that's really true. So to get to the root of the question, is there a perfect squat form? No. Every person's body is differently. Some people's bodies will react better to a certain kind of form, and some people's bodies will react better to another kind of form. Depending on the way your body is built, depending on the way your bones are built, depending on the way your limb lengths and all that, depending on the way everything goes together, you may have to squat differently than other people. That's just naturally a thing that happens. And when it comes to that, the single biggest factor that comes into play is stance. So most people are used to what's called a close stance, toes pointed slightly outwards with their feet relatively close together. And the big drama with the close stance squat is whether or not your knees should go past your toes. It's commonly held that your knees should not go past your toes, because if it goes past your toes, you're going to destroy your knees or whatever. Your kneecaps are gonna pop off and shoot up into the moon. But that's not really accurate either, honestly. You see basically Olympic lifters who have to squat crap tons of weight, front squatting, and because of the way the front squat is sort of pushes your basically sort of pushes your knees forwards a little bit, your torso is a little more upright. They often have to squat with their knees pretty far past their toes, and they it's a pretty rough sport, and it has a slightly higher injury rate than just working out or walking around on the street. But it's not ridiculously high. Like, it's not out of it's not out of proportion with other sports that do a lot of squatting that don't have to do that kind of squatting, which includes stuff like powerlifting or just general sports training. So, is it, are the knees going past the toes, is that, a bad thing? Not necessarily. It can certainly be a problem if you don't squat correctly. And so many people just starting out, just squatting for the first time, don't really know how to squat properly. And so they don't know how to hip hinge properly. And what that means is obviously that your hips have to bend at the exact same time that your knees are. And you have to be sitting back into the squat. And of course, this is well known for anyone who's been squatting for more than a while. But beginners who have no clue what they're doing, myself, back when I started, I had no clue what I was doing, tend to not bend at the hips properly. And so they're doing all the bending at the knees, none of it at the hips. And what that means is that they have limited range of motion, they can't really go very deep, and they have to shoot those knees super far forward, even further forward than you typically do in the Olympic type squatting we were previously discussing. And so that can really be damaging to the knees because you're putting a lot of weight and on those knees, and they're just it's just not a biomechanically advantageous position. Now, once you can hip hinge properly, once you can squat properly, are the knees going past the toes a little bit okay? Yeah, absolutely. And particularly more so if you've been training that for a while, if you've gotten used to the movement. Obviously you don't want to take a beginner who's never squatted before, toss a crap ton of weight on that, and then have them squat with their knees going past their toes. That's probably a bad idea. But it's certainly something that you can build up to and work up to. Now the other question then is squatting, with your knees not going past your toes worse? No, that's not true either. And basically, if we look into the second major kind of squatting, which is a wide stance squat, so you take a much wider stance, your toes are pointed even further outwards. This kind of squat limits your depth a little bit. You're not as able to go as deep as you can with the closer stance squat. And this is typically used by powerlifters a lot who are trying to move a lot of weight, and it may be beneficial, just depending on your own body, depending on your leverages and all that. You may or may not find that an easier stance for you. You may or may not be able to move some more weight that way. And so, a lot of powerlifters prefer that stance. And with that stance, there's very little forward knee movement. And, it's not like they're killing themselves or killing their knees either. The main thing is it's really healthy. I mean, don't write this on, don't write this on a piece of paper. Don't write this note down. But you can really get away with a lot of things. Your body can get away with a lot of things as long as you adapt to it. There's a lot of goofy ass movements that aren't necessarily going to kill you or make anything worse. As long as you aren't overtaxing your body by putting too much weight on it or too much effort onto it too soon. So as long as you build up properly, form is less important in terms of injury rating, in terms of, your chances of causing issues further down the line. It's more important that you focus on proper progression, starting off light, adding weight slowly, adding reps slowly, whatever it is, and not killing yourself early on, because that's an easy way. When you take bad form and you add an unnecessary or, an overshooting the amount of effort that you need to put into it, on top of that, that's a recipe for disaster. But oftentimes you can build up, pretty easily to all sorts of different things with all kinds of, goofy ass form. There's people who deadlift with crappy form, legitimately crappy form. I do, but it's because they've trained for so long. They've got such strong backs, and they're so used to a certain kind of position that it's okay for them to deadlift with a form that might be a problem for somebody else. And it's also important to understand that there's another way that you can change up your squat form, and that's that you can actually stagger your stance. So you can do, one foot slightly in front of the other. You can obviously do stuff like lunges, in which the stance is such that your feet are far apart from each other. And oftentimes a lot of lunges will cause your knees to go past your toes. That's not killing you. Walking upstairs causes your knees to go past your toes. That's not killing you. And then, again, there's also plenty of stuff that doesn't cause your knees to go past your toes. That's not going to kill you either. So the idea that there is one perfect squat form is very much a misnomer, because there is, theoretically, somewhere up there in the sky, there is an ideal squat form for each person. And again, that squat form could be very different from the way, someone else squats. But that doesn't mean that, that there is one perfect squat form that applies to everybody. Instead, what I recommend is trying out lots of different squat forms. So try a close stance with what's called a high bar position up top on the traps. Try a wide stance with a low bar position, which is kind of on the back of the shoulders instead. Look up a video on that. Don't just do it, just off of me telling you this. Try lunging, try side lunging, try split squats, try, staggering your stance, try a lot of different things. See what your body works best for. To give an example, I hurt my quad a while back, about 6-7 months ago now. And it's still not quite healed up, honestly. I've been taking it easy. It still gets kind of angry and irritable sometimes. But as a result, I've made a video about this in the past. I haven't really been squatting because that, any amount of squatting is going to re-aggravate that. And so I, did some experimentation, and I found that the best option for me is anything that doesn't involve a lot of hip abduction or adduction. So that means that my legs are staying relatively straight in line. They're not moving out at all. So what are my options there? That means I could do super, super close stance, extremely parallel leg squats. That's one option, but it's not one that I like because I've never been very good in that position in the first place. I've always done wide stance squats, and that's always been the best for me. I can do leg presses with my legs super close together. That's a little bit more comfortable. That's, a little bit better for me. And I can do lunges because with the lunges, you're just, again, you're just keeping those legs, relatively parallel to each other. And so my leg training for a while, even though I normally train as a powerlifter, my leg training for a while has involved a lot of lunging and a lot of leg presses, which are not squatting. And, that's okay because for me, I'm just in a position where squatting is not necessarily the best option for me. And there's a chance that squatting may not be the best option for you, depending on what your training style is and the way your body reacts to things. But again, I encourage experimentation. I encourage trying a few different things out. I encourage finding out what feels best. Your body is actually very good at knowing what is best. It's very good at giving you these signals and these feedback. So if a certain movement feels awkward or weird, that's probably a sign that you shouldn't do it. And if it feels natural, it feels good, it feels strong, then go ahead and keep doing it. Injury is not as simple as form. I could do videos and videos and videos about injury. I could talk about it for forever. But it's to say that it just boils down to whether or not your knees go past your toes, or whether or not you followed some specific little form, cue, is extremely reductionist. Extremely reductionist. So so that's kind of, sorry for the long-winded explanation, but there really is no perfect squat form. There's no one way to do things, and that's really all there is to it. So, as always, like, comment, share, tell me what you want to see in future videos, and I will see you guys next time. Have a good night.